We're out on the streets of Mayfair, a part of London that's been home to artists, designers and fashion houses for hundreds of years. Ever since the Academy moved here in the 19th century to Burlington House, we've been part of that mix, a place where art is made as well as exhibited. In the lead up to the summer exhibition and the annual Mayfair Art Weekend, I've been talking to some of the area's leading creative figures about Mayfair's extraordinary artistic heritage and what art means to them.
People might come, say, to Bond Street to buy a dress, but they'll walk into the Academy and they'll find a whole other extra world. Bond Street and the streets around are very much still to do with the fine art world, but also the fashion world, and I think there's ever more of a symbiosis between the two.
I think that the art gallery is definitely the precedent for this store. You know, shops are usually treated as markets. Like you go and you have all the pieces that they have in stock facing you. Here they are shown as individual objects that you have a lot of space to look at, the way you look at an artwork. The physicality of the space is important here. You know, the surfaces that are reflective and engage you, the mirror ceiling below that, you know, confuses in a way and invites you to explore what the real height of the ceiling is. It has to be about the experience. I think that Victoria was really amazing with that.
But I sort of started painting and making things from the age of 11 and sort of started selling things off. And then went into making textiles because I was very interested in the craft and the actual making. So I had dye and paint over my hands for years and years and years. And then went to the Royal College to really focus on the sort of making side of it. They had all the amazing equipment. When you're an artist, you have a voice and you're telling a story and you're in your theme. With fashion, it's more about escapism and a mood and the way clothes make you feel. So rather than living in a kind of a grey world, which a lot of world could be considered, it's about wearing kind of fanciful clothes and living that kind of the lifestyle that sort of transforms you. So our clothes are joyful and they are about escapism and they are about sort of a fantasy. They're very, very feminine, they're quite decadent.
Rather touchingly, you're going to pay homage or engage in a kind of conversation with the Academy and its history.
We have two young artists, both from Edinburgh. They've both just finished their master's degree, and what they're going to be using is our shop window as their studio. So they'll have their easels and they'll be creating pieces of work. So you'll be able to walk past them, stop and watch them, and see their whole process of how they create. Incorporates, you know, that artistic side with, you know, what we do, and it's a conversation.
So let's talk about the specific inspiration of the Royal Academy as it celebrates its august 250th birthday. How are you responding to that?
We're going to put the artwork or the window into the Haymarket Hotel, and we thought it would be interesting just to have Joshua Reynolds as the president at the front of this huge canvas. But also we wanted all the artists from the very start right up to today, and little sort of postcard-sized pieces of their work, which will diagonally go across and meet in the centre. And so it's almost like a potted history all in one canvas of everything, or our favourite artists that have actually been exhibited at the Royal Academy.
So actually you're a collagist as well as an interior designer, as well as an architect in the way you approach things, because it's an amalgamation of different...
Yes, it is. And it's textures, fabrics, feel. It's using every sense, every one of our senses. And a room doesn't work unless you have all of your senses fulfilled. It's important to have the very, very expensive artworks, but they should be sitting cheek by jowl with something which a student has done, something which just has a lot of soul or duende. And that, I think, is how a room and a space works. There has to be that juxtaposition.
I like this notion of the artist being a sort of conduit. I think Paul Klee had this metaphor: the artist was sort of a tree and it sucks up the nutrients from the ground and then it produces these leaves, but it doesn't really, it's a sort of intermediary, a kind of mediumistic way of looking at it. And the drawing is just a starting point. It's the carving which sort of decides that, how the final image is going to look. And it's an extremely laborious process. It's a counterintuitive way of making work, and I think it gives it some kind of value or power, I don't know, in some way perhaps, I'm not sure. This notion that there's an image in the wood already and you're sort of finding it.
It's become so exciting over the last few years with all the galleries and all the new shops opening on Mount Street, and it's properly kind of London. If I think of central London, I like to think of Mayfair.